Cool.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We all join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up we have approval of the November 21st regular meeting as presented.
I make a motion to accept them as presented.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. There's no one here for public comment. So we will go to discussion items. So just a reminder that the Facilities Committee will meet next week on the 12th, and their focus is going to be the Townsend Elementary School. We completed our first cut at the bus garage, so we're going to start working on the Townsend Elementary School, and then I would expect sometime in January we're going to follow up with middle school and then high school in that format. A reminder, there's a Finance Committee meeting scheduled to meet December 18th. And Kevin Verweer.
You want to go through the other one? I can just do that at the end.
That sounds good. Good. Just for planning purposes, looking ahead, the 24-25 reorg meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 2nd. In accordance with education law, the reorganizational meeting is held on the first Tuesday of July unless it falls on a holiday. In that case, it can be moved, held to the first Wednesday. It can be scheduled by resolution of the board for another date within the first 15 days of July if we so choose. And we'll have a second summer meeting later half in August. So the question is, are we okay with having a reorg on July 2nd, or do we want to consider moving that to anywhere within that first 15 days?
Second's fine.
Keep it on a second for now?
Sure.
Okay, but if we do have an issue, is there another time we can discuss it if something comes up vacation plan wise? Okay, so we'll hold it for the second, and if something does arise from a board member, we'll try to accommodate. Ferrer and Friends has offered several evening dates for our retreat at 5 p.m. January 17th, 18th, 23, 24, or 25, and Jennifer Matthews will be the one presenting for us. It'll be an evening meeting with a light dinner, so just let Corey know availability of those dates, which ones don't work for you, and we'll block those out.
Thank you.
Would you like now, Kevin?
Sure.
Okay.
So last Tuesday, Meg and I attended the meeting, Catskill Area School Study Council. The slide deck is available, can be attached to the agenda, and I actually have a hard copy here if anybody is interested in a hard copy. The presentation was about an hour and a half. It was given by Dr. Timms. There was a lot of interesting information. He hit on a lot of issues, not necessarily recommendations for districts, but more related to issues to bring to your representatives and what you should be lobbying for to improve issues related to state aid. So we went over foundation aid issues, talked about fund balance, tax cap, and then because you can never get away from it these days, even the zero emission buses came up. There's about 10 different slides that are just on the buses as well, because he's really concerned about the cost related to all the buses that need to be purchased over the next 15 years. So just some of the main items that he hit on. Decreasing enrollment is an issue across the region. He has, if you look at the slides, there's summary tables of enrollment for DCMO districts and ONC districts, and DCMO since 2010 has lost about 2,500 students, so significant. And then the other districts was another 2,000, so significant decrease in enrollment since 2010. When it comes to foundation aid, he has a table of projected state aid for next year as of the November run. Meg could probably speak better to this than I could, but most of the districts were actually zeros, and Walton actually showed an increase in funding. And when we saw that, Meg and I sort of looked at each other like, why us? He talked about it a little bit, but it may be due to some of the factors like increasing number of special ed students. And also he mentioned that some of the districts may not have had their paperwork in time for the runs. And I don't know, Dr. McDonald, if you have anything to add.
I received some advocacy detail on that from Bob Lowery from Discus that I'll share with the finance committee next week, a spreadsheet on that goes in a little bit deeper as to the why.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the whole harmless comes on top of it and we end up with more than what we projected.
In general, though, his point was that there must be a change in the foundation aid amount to reflect the current costs of what it takes to educate students. And he was recommending, a blue ribbon commission type study to look at what does it actually take to educate our kids, because the foundation aid formulas are so outdated and need to be updated so that we can get more funding from the state.
And that's what he's recommending, taken to legislation?
Right.
Get that
Yeah.
changed?
He goes through, if you look at the slides, he goes through in great detail the specific measures that are in the formulas that he recommends need to be changed. They're outdated. When it comes to the fund balance, he has issue with the RBTL 1318, which is the 4% fund balance law, the cap, recommending that he recommends that it is at least 10%, because you need to have that additional flexibility to manage budget over a multi-year period. His point was that we should not be managing our budgets in a single year. We need to be dealing with 3 to 5 year, long-term financial planning, especially now that we're looking at having to purchase electric buses, which is a significant cost. So we have to be able to bump that number up.
And historically, we've been running that 8-10%.
Yep.
In that
Right.
ballpark, we've been 6, 8, 10 in that ball. So we've already been doing that.
Well, and your school year starts in September,
Right.
Right when the taxes start coming in, and if you're not receiving the taxes in soon, you've got to have something to fall back on, for.
And that was a point that he made as well. Yep. I don't think any of this was really like stuff we didn't already know. It's just stuff he's re-hitting on that we need to take this to our representatives. When it comes to the tax cap, he walked through an example just to point out that it's not actually a 2% tax cap, it's just the one indice that's actually capped at 2%. And then he walked through over a 5-year period, if you capped just year 1 at 2%, how much money you would be losing over that 5-year period, which is about $250,000 with a $10 million budget. And then finally, he wrapped up the discussion on zero emission buses, which I actually haven't had a chance to look through all those slides yet, but he feels very strongly that that's going to cost the state a lot of money. I think he has a number in there, like 55,000 buses is going to cost $20 billion. So where's all that coming from? The long term, or over the next 5 years, the state finances are not looking that good. We're looking at a deficit. So how is this all going to come together? It's going to be a real challenge for all the districts. That was basically the message.
Right, and it's a cost that we shouldn't be putting on our taxpayers.
Right.
Another funding mandate, they gotta bring the money to the table with
Yep.
those, for sure.
Well, to make sure
And make sure it's realistic.
the 90% transportation aid, like in our case, that's not gonna go away. And they're talking about extending it out to 15 years. So how are they gonna fund that?
Yeah.
Right.
You just think about it, it's just under the state of New York. How are they gonna do that? So doesn't make a lot of sense.
If anybody, when you go through this packet, if we have any questions, our next meeting when Meg's here specifically, we can obviously prep her for that. So if you have any questions on that, just fire them to me. We'll get them on the agenda for the next meeting.
And when is the lobby day? Is that in January, February for the
It's
school
in
district?
February.
February?
Actually,
Okay.
did you?
But, to speak of that, if we wanted to do some in-person,
Lobbying?
if we want to do some in-person lobbying, the recommended rate from the legislators is that we make appointments and go ourselves. Don't go to lobby day. You go in as a group, it's in and out, and they don't hear you. They don't even know who's come through.
Yes,
Placing the
yes,
list.
uh-huh.
And you're
So-
limited.
Exactly.
You're limited on the time that you can have with them as well.
So if that is something that we would like to do, that's something that we can help coordinate and hit some of our key legislators, we can set it up with whoever would like to go, and we'll hit some appointments, but that lobby day is, I feel bad for them, I don't know how they get through the day knowing.
We'll have to get a copy of their, when they're in session, their session dates and visitation dates. See when we can do that.
We don't have the legislative breakfast still.
Right.
That's been well attended, the Shenango School Boards, so that'll be coming up as well, so that'll be around, I think right around the same time, actually. January, February, I think they do it around the same time period.
Yeah, ours for the county is the end of January. And the school's right after that.
Okay, any correspondence?
No, we do not.
Any additions to the agenda?
No.
Okay, so we're on to the consent agenda.
Before we take a vote on that, I would just like to discuss the 7C.
Okay,
Okay.
all yours.
This is an MOU for services that we have done from March to November. It was done when the employee retired. We didn't have anybody in the position at that time, and he was, good enough to stay on and help us out. But I am looking for more of a long-term solution to this. I know we have it in the agreement here that we would do up to 40 hours a week for 39 weeks. That's roughly 1,560 hours, where a full-time person we could do for 2,080 hours. So we're looking at a difference of 34,000 down to 28,000 hiring, but then you have benefits as well. So I'm just looking for, maybe in the future, we have a new director come in, if we can look for a full-time position for this, especially since the retiree retired and has a business, 2 businesses of his own right now. There may come a time where he says he can't do it, and I think we need to be prepared. Training somebody now, getting somebody, working with him, under him.
We had hoped to have, we had an internal target, and we had hoped to have that person doing that. Since didn't work out. We don't have anybody on staff currently that is interested in that, but
Maybe we can
I'll work with the new
advertise.
director, and we'll go from there.
Because this individual has a lot of information that needs to be shared, with another
Correct,
employee about our district and, the things that he does, getting the fields ready and where certain things are. And I know him and I have had this discussion, and somebody really needs to get a hold of that knowledge.
We'll keep monitoring. We'll monitor it for quality as we always do. We'll monitor it for mutual. Right now, it's mutually agreed upon, and I met with him in November, and he's committed to continuing, and we'll go forward from there. Okay.
I've got a quick question
Yes.
on the surplus.
Okay, go ahead.
Does everything have to go through that municipal site? I was just looking at some of the sports.
No, the sports stuff will not go. A lot of the sports stuff, we actually discussed this before. We talked about coming up with a mechanism either through booster clubs or through the athletics. Anything that's worth resale, that isn't just thrown away, to come up with a way to give an opportunity and sell it and let people buy some memorabilia or whatever the case may be and benefit the current sports teams. And that's something that we'll approach again now that we have a list. We didn't get it done the last time. Was it last year? Remember that? It was, because you brought it up.
Yes.
And that's something that we'll approach again. But so we surplus first, and then anything that is garbage gets thrown out, but it has to be surplus first because it was bought with public funds. Anything that is able to be auctioned, equipment-wise, not athletic type equipment, equipment-wise, go on the use of bid. And then other stuff we may put up for sale. Technology, for instance, we do our own on our website and sell it. So we'll go on for that consideration.
Yeah, I was just mostly thinking for like the booster club type stuff that would be good to, where they're needing, meeting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other discussion on any of the consent agenda items, A through G? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the
Yes, sorry.
Accept the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is carried. New business, accepting donations. We got a donation of $407.25 from the UP Church of Walton Mission to Outreach Committee to the Anti-Bullying Program at Townsend Elementary and to the Alternative to Violence, AVP program at the secondary level. Another donation of $550 from the Lions International Walton Club for 2 students to attend the Hobby Leadership Conference. A 4x4 piece of sheet metal from Empire Metal Works to the high school art program for a student project. And a $200 donation from an anonymous donor to the Alternatives to Violence program. Do we have a motion to accept those donations?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Motion is seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. Next on new business, we have the approval of a shared school psychologist agreement with Downsville. Any discussion on that?
Is this something that is aidable? Will we get aid on this?
No, and actually, even if we did an itinerant shared through BOCES, that's not aidable either. So like back when we used to, through BOCES, do a share with any teacher, any psychologist, anything like that. There's not aid on itinerant services there either. So this is actually more cost effective between districts because you don't have the administrative oversight. The administrative charges from BOCES. So,
When did they take that away?
and it's never been.
It's never been for itinerant?
No, it's never been. So years and years ago, we were doing a home ec teacher share between us and Franklin,
Right.
back when I was principal. And we did it that way because when they did the comparison between what it would cost us going through BOCES and what it would cost us directly with them, it costs more to go through BOCES, so, that's not the benefit of the BOCES. So we didn't do that. So that's where you gotta weigh your options and do your diligence on what works and what doesn't work. BOCES a 3-way share, things like that, makes sense. They can manage those pieces very well. But with a 2-way share, if you can make an agreement between districts, you're better off making a district.
So will this be on an as-needed basis? Like, we will
Correct.
have a definite schedule as to how many days the individual will be here versus
Exactly.
Downsville?
It's going to be up to a 0.6 FTE, but it's going to depend on where the need is, because as we know, psychologists, evaluations and meetings, it goes back and forth, so it's going to be coordinated between our director, Gary Williams, and the principal and the psychologist at Downsville. But it will not exceed a 0.6 value of that individual.
And we just have to reimburse, on top of the salary, we have to reimburse mileage.
Correct. Correct.
I just had a question about the number 4 in the agreement that says each board shall review this agreement annually and shall appoint a subcommittee to meet with the subcommittee, the other party, to discuss and review the findings of the boards related to this agreement. Any idea what that?
Essentially, that would be Mr. Williams and myself reporting to,
But it's written as a
To-
subcommittee of the board's members.
yeah,
Is that
not sure.
actually their intent?
It might be their intent on their side,
Okay.
because it's a mutual agreement that we both are signing on. Its members meet and appoint a subcommittee, each board of education,
Sounds like it's a communication piece
to discuss and review the
on a
findings.
yearly
of the board's
basis. Is it working? Is it fulfilling the
Right.
needs
Yeah.
as recommended up
Correct.
to you by us?
Yep.
So you would recommend to us, this is either is working or some changes need to be made, and then we would discuss it at the level, but the decision to change it would still, I'm assuming, resides with administration.
Agreed.
So we're just we'll get an annual update basically on this.
Correct,
Yeah.
which you would have to have for this to be agreed upon next year for you to approve it, because it'll be an annual approval.
Okay.
With it being an agreement.
Any other discussion on the school psychologist agreement? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Next, we have the authorize the transportation of student corrected. Correction on that one,
Changing it to DCMO?
DCMO.
Sullivan?
Yep, so instead of Sullivan was
we
typed
had
into the
that.
last one.
Is that Norwich BOCES?
Norwich.
Norwich, okay, so not,
So the last one just had, erroneously had Sullivan BOCES instead of DCMO BOCES. So that's just the only change in it, correct?
Correct.
A motion to correct that?
I'll move it.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Corrected. Personnel appointments. This is the appointment of Director of Facilities 2, as recommended Brett Wood to us, at an annual rate of $65,000. Any discussion on that?
Is this pending a test, or has he tested?
This was off of a competitive list.
Okay.
They did it's a statewide list, so they did a statewide search. We had 4, 3 interviewed, and this is our candidate.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, I entertain a motion to approve that appointment.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Congratulations, Brett. And finally, new business E is to rescind the appointment of Caleb Bolster. The candidate changed her mind. Any discussion on that? Entertain a motion to rescind.
I'll make the motion.
second?
Motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Policy updates. First policy first reading. Mr. Revere, you do us the
Yes,
honors.
we have one policy for first reading tonight. That's 2210, board organizational meeting.
Okay. We have a motion to accept that as our first reading for policy 2210.
Move it.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. And adopting policy, our second readings.
So we have 4 policies for second reading tonight. We have 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity. 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. 5001, attendance policy. And 9520.6, rights of employees to express breast milk in the workplace.
Any discussion on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt policy second reading. Those 4.
I'll move it.
Second?
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are carried. And administrative remarks. Dr. McDonald.
Mr. Robinson, since you're here, is there anything you want to comment on your report?
There is not.
Okay. The only comment I have out of the other 2 is if you notice underneath John Jackson's, we had the generator startup completed. We held it off initially, and they completed it on the Wednesday when the school was not in session, which that was an extra bit of caution since we had, some unexpected lights blow up and various things the first time that they did it. This time it was, there was no damage, everything went fine, everything's ready to go, and it will exercise every Monday. Well, the first one will take place, I guess, that's a full note, but every Monday morning at 7 a.m. in 15 minutes. So that's up and running, that's a huge accomplishment for the district, I believe. If you recall, that came from a survey, public survey, when we were asking for information from the public on what they would like for us to consider with our COVID recovery funds. This is something that was strongly asked for and something that's been asked for 20 years. So congratulations to the board on that decision-making. It's completed. And now if the town, you're moving through your process of putting one on at the church, so we'll have one on
Correct.
each side of the river. So what a great, anybody who looked through that flood, it was
Yeah.
here for those floods.
Yep.
Floods,
Yeah.
what a great accomplishment by both the county and the school. And other than that, just a comment, I believe that we sent you a couple photos of kids in the classrooms at Townsend, right? We
Yep.
sent the Friday letter.
Yep.
So some smiling faces in those new rooms, it was kind of nice to see. Everybody's quite excited over there, and they're moving the arrival times back, we had to change all the movement of the students for construction, and they're moving it back, and everything's gonna go back to complete normal for the rest of the year as far as how the students come in, what door, where they go for stairs, everything will go back to what it was typically, and then we'll redo this again in September,
Here we go.
so.
The lights are up and they look beautiful, by the way.
Yep,
It's nice to,
yep, thank you,
Festive.
Mr. Charles, for that reminder, we got that done.
I have a question on John's, the RB Landscaping. Are they a local company?
They are out of Norwich. They're the company that did the original landscaping. And we plan on going out, that's just this fall in a spring cleanup. And then we'll be going out with a full RFP
Okay.
this spring, and get a full opportunity for a complete competition around. They do a nice job. They make their own mulch, so they tend to be very cost effective. And I believe they will compete as well in the bid.
Mhm.
So we'll see where we end up. But we will be doing that. We got a contract for the fall, we're gonna do a contract just for the spring, getting it ready to go. So it's set for spring and for graduation. And during that same time period, we'll go out for an RFP for next year.
Mr. Nolan's report, the bus garage exterior lighting in the front, that's still not done.
Correct.
Do we know when that will get done? Because it's quite dark down there.
I don't have a time frame, in front of me, but I can find that out and inquire. I know Millard, I think where there was a delay is he was out on vacation for a week or so. That's what he was doing prior to that, and then added some more. So hopefully they're being done this week, but I will check. He did Christmas lighting on Monday, so.
Okay. And also, the, coming into this foyer here, the high school, the middle school lights are on, but the high school lights don't seem to ever be on when we come in for the meetings. Last time, Mr. Hodges flipped a switch right outside the door here and turned them on, but that green light just is not bright enough. So I don't know if that's on a timer, but the other one isn't,
I don't know.
or whether somebody
I'll check on
manually
that.
shuts that off.
Thank you for that.
I mean, we don't have a lot of people that attend, but when the students and stuff are here,
yeah, we got late games going on now, so.
yeah, it should be turned on. If it is on a
I'll
timer.
give you an update on the bus lights in the Friday letter this week.
Okay. And Kevin, you're right, the lights do get nice out here.
And that's all I got.
We have no need for an executive session,
One on my end.
so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?